Welcome back to the Form is Temporary podcast, and we're very happy for this festive edition of the Form is Temporary to get on a couple of great members in the FPL community. Firstly, he is the one and only Mr. Inject It FC. Yes, it is the legend, Mr. Charles Watts, well-known journalist. No, actually, sorry, it's not Charles Watts. Who is it this week, Bhuna?
I think it's Spy on Cop this week. That might just be a bit of an insider. It could be one of many. Just keep your eyes peeled. I can't give you everything away.
Okay, you're keeping your cards close to your chest. No, I understand it. It's fair. No, it's all jokes aside. It's a pleasure to get you on FPL Bhuna. It's been, really exciting kind of season for us as the pod, and we've been looking forward to this episode because, let's just say, as the kind of content you produce for the community, there is a lot of people that love you and a lot of people that hate you, but we're here to welcome you on regardless. And your contributions are valued. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And Chris couldn't make this one. So to preview game week 17-18 for our festive edition, we've got Kanji FPL of FPL Roundtable. So Kanji, firstly, how are you?
Amazing, bro. How you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you stepping in to help co-host with me. But yeah, really excited for this one, and we'll help with our FPL advice. Hopefully, this kind of couple of deadlines, the festive season, so it's trying to get those teams locked in over the busy period. But with FPL Bhuna tonight and Kanji, we'll be looking at how our game week 17 teams could be looking, potential transfers as well in 18. We'll of course reflect on game week 16, which was the game week that it was. And it was an interesting week. Obviously, not many premiums doing well for captaincy. We'll kind of touch on that with the average of 47. So nice week for a lot of people. I think there was a few green arrows there, but we'll get onto that with our teams. We'll also look at potential differentials that you could be bringing in for game weeks 17 and 18 to help you rise up the ranks. And we'll talk through potential players you could pick for that. And then we also touch on the podcast league, and we've got our head-to-head league and see what the kind of results showed in game week 16. And then, of course, Bhuna will end on the quiz, which you always love to do. And this week, got a festive theme to it. So we'll see how Bhuna and Kanji can do it up against each other with a bit of a festive theme. How are you feeling
nice,
for that quiz?
No pressure, Bhuna.
I've never been more excited.
Good to hear. I love that festive cheer. Well, brilliant stuff. We'll get into looking back at game week 16 then. And the first team I've got up to do that is your team, Bhuna. So 45 points in game week 16. Just talk us through kind of the highs and lows, what went well, what maybe could have gone better. Actually, before we do say that, I do have to address the elephant in the room, and that is pre-deadline in game week 16, you had a little tweet you put out regarding a certain Wolves striker. So do you want to just just explain that for those that missed it?
Yeah, I got really classified news from a close friend that Cunha wasn't going to be starting. I believe it was a last-minute decision for him to actually start that game, and obviously I missed that. It didn't manage to filter through. So unfortunately, I think 5 to maybe 25 people may have benched Cunha, which is really unfortunate. But, ultimately, I'm just looking to improve everyone's attention to detail. It's not my problem. You can't read, so there we are. That's where we are. And look, Cunha may actually be out this week.
Yeah, well, it's very funny, isn't it? The way it's panned out with Cunha scoring, obviously, in that game. That was painful for a lot of people that did take Bhuna's advice. But also now with his disciplinary action and his, investigation from the FA after what happened, that absolute melee of the rest of the Ipswich game. And now potentially facing a ban, which could see him suspended, even going into game week 17, 18 in the future. It's amazing how that tweet has turned out, isn't it, Kanji?
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, Cunha is one of those players where, he's just Wolves. If Cunha's not there, they're going to get killed. So it's interesting how that worked out. And just touching on the ban, I don't know if he's going to be out for very long because I think there's a similar situation. I think there's a lot of people that discussed it over on Twitter, and it's even if the ban is implemented, I don't even think he'll be banned from the Leicester game. I still think if they sort of just appeal the ban, maybe they can appeal the length of it. He should still be available.
Yeah,
and
that's what I
coming up after. the fixtures coming up after are pretty tough for Wolves after. So I wouldn't even expect him to pick up many points. So hopefully, even if he gets banned, hopefully he's back for like the good fixtures for Wolves later on. Because otherwise, relegation is a definite possibility for them. Like there's massive consequences. Like this game is huge against Leicester.
Yeah. Would you say you agree with that, Bhuna? You think that potentially this game he could get the kind of game to play against Leicester because of the size of the match, or do you think this ban could come in straight away?
Well, I think they've set a bit of a precedence with what Kudus did earlier in the season, and I think they have to follow suit now. Personally, so I'm expecting a minimum of a 5-match ban, but similar to what Kanji said there with regards to the delay between if and we've heard through the grapevine that Wolves will be appealing it. Whether that's true or not, it's not 100%. And if they do, that will give them a bit of time and should mean that he at least plays this weekend. And really and truly, you just want him for this weekend. So if you own him, you're fine. I'm guessing it will go that way.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Going on to your team then, Bhuna, you made the one.
Do we have to, Roberto? Do we have to? Seriously.
We got
the worst week of all weeks. Like, have a look at my previous game weeks. They were all green arrows. As soon as I'm on here, it's a red. Seriously.
I'm sorry. It's the T-Fit pod curse. What can I say? But you did end up bringing Alexander Isak for Watkins, and that was really, really nice with Isak's 11-point haul. But yeah, talk through 45 points. It was, as you say, a red arrow. But what sort of was the highs and lows for your game week 16?
I mean, to be honest, it was mostly lows. I think most content creators were expecting this to be quite a high-scoring game week with the Threemium, Salah, Palmer, Saka all having quite favourable fixtures, but it wasn't to be. It was all looking quite nice actually when Saka and Salah had blanked, and my captain on Sunday was yet to play Brentford at home. Brentford is such a leaky side. Expected so much more, but it wasn't to be. What can you do? So it was mostly lows. Bowen looked lively again. And he may be someone that might be popping up as a bit of a differential later. I'm just saying. He is still 6.9% owned, but we will touch on that when we touch on it. So yes, not a great game week for me. Went from 99k to 143k for anyone mildly interested. It's not the end of the world. That's a little bit. I mean, there's not too much to say. I got Robinson on the bench, but I was never playing him away to Liverpool over anyone else, so no regret there.
Yeah, it makes sense. Looking at this team, Kanji, I've noticed, the triple Brighton. So it's not quite gone to plan the last few weeks. Brighton, they've been leaking goals, kind of frustrating games, that Leicester away match. And obviously to not win against Palace, their kind of so-called rivals, was a bit of a blow for them. So yeah, what do you think about Brighton assets moving forward, Kanji? Do you think that they, with the fixtures they've got, which do look still pretty good, that they can still get points as potentially, in that attack with the likes of Mitoma and João Pedro?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to really call up Danny Welbeck and just get mad at him because, like, he's the reason that this hasn't worked. Basically, what's happened is you brought in the 3 best Brighton assets, in my opinion. You got the best defender, the best mid, and the best forward. But what's happened is the coach has played João Pedro in the striker position, but João Pedro is not a natural striker. If you even look at his heat map, it looks more like a left mid. So he's picking up weird positions in general. I just think you got unlucky, and you just got to hope.
Just bad timing. It's bad timing, isn't it?
Yeah,
and like there's a direct link between Welbeck being in the team and not being in the team. Like in the last 4 game weeks, since I've had all 3 of those assets, I bought them all in for as part of a -8 in the same game week when they played Southampton. Mitoma scored in that first game, but since then, in the next 3 fixtures, collectively between the 3, they've only got 2 returns for me. So it's just bad luck. It's difficult to not sell them this week, I'll be honest, but I'm going to try to hold off because I think they've still got 2 goodish fixtures. Sorry, Kanji.
No, you're good, bro. I just think it's one of those where it's like we have good picks in FPL, and it's like you're just sort of selling a good pick for another good pick if you sell them. So it's risky because if you sold Matoma or JP or Stupinian, they could hurt you. Like they could return,
Yeah, and there's a temptation, right? With Enzo and Ahmad playing as well as they are for 1.5, 1.6 less, there's a temptation. But when I think about it, look at the bigger picture. It's sideways. I'm not upgrading to no premium player for a small price. They could all score equally. In fact, if Mitoma was to outscore either of those 2 assets this week, as an example, if I was to make that transfer, would I be surprised? Would other people be surprised? Absolutely not, because he's proven it over a longer time.
Yeah, you just sort of need like Ferguson or Danny Welbeck to play in the striker position, and you're probably going to eat in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's interesting. Obviously, clean sheets were quite few and far between to come in game week 16. But it was nice that Arsenal did get that clean sheet, and Gabriel ended up starting despite the kind of fears over that, and he got that 9-pointer. But I noticed in your defence there, Bhuna, you've got a couple of interesting options with Henderson in goal, who obviously started the season really poorly, and now he's got the fixtures potentially to be one of the better, cheaper options, and also Kirkes, who does have good fixtures as well. Are you looking at Henderson as kind of that cheap mid, goalkeeper option? Do you think he's the best sort of price around that sort of money?
Well, I go by one thing in FPL, and I always have done that. I don't make goalkeeper transfers. Unfortunately, Henderson was my goalkeeper of choice from game week 1.
Wow.
So I just left him there in the hope that variance would do its thing, and I would get some points some weeks. And coming into the wild card, when I look to play that, I may look to. I probably will look to change it, but until then, nothing there. On Kirkes, that was a 50-50 call. Him and Hall. It's not gone my way. I could rectify that this week, because I don't think I'll be playing Kirkes this week or next week. So I could do that move, but again, Newcastle's fixtures, Ipswich away, not the easiest. Delap suspended, really good for Newcastle defence. But then it's Aston Villa, Spurs, United, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I don't see clean sheets.
Yep, you're right.
I guess that's why you own Kirkes, though, isn't it, Kanji? You own him for the attacking upside, and Bournemouth has been scoring goals, and Kirkes has been involved in them, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's linked with the move to Liverpool potentially in January, maybe in the summer. He's a great player. This is the way I look at it. I don't think a Bournemouth defender is a good FPL pick. And that's just the way that I started trying to play FPL. Like, I hate like saying like I'm better than you or anything. Bro, my rank is 2 million. Like, I'm having one of the worst seasons ever. But like, I just don't like bringing a defender in that I don't trust the defense. So you need those attacking returns. And with Kirkes, I actually trust him as a player, so he can get it for you. And he does have some good fixtures coming up, but I'd rather be on Lewis Hall because I trust Newcastle defense more. But there's question marks about like, Botman coming back. There's like someone else that you could go to, maybe like a Joe Gomez or a Konate in a few weeks' time. Like, there are some players you could consider at the cheaper price range that I prefer.
With my defenders this week, I'm sure we'll come on to preview the next game week, but just really quickly, I'm playing Robinson, Gabriel, and at the moment, Estupinian.
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel Kirkes to Hall or someone to Hall warrants a transfer when I've got two very good defenders and one Estupinian. Look, attacking-wise, he's looked very lively. I'm happy owning him. It's just not materializing and converting into points, unfortunately, but that's the game, isn't it?
Are you all kind of worried about Estupinian? Do you think maybe when Kadioglu and potentially Veltman come back, Bhuna, would you be worried about Estupinian's minutes then?
Look, if it happens, so be it. I've got 5 defenders who should all play. I've got those 3, then I've got Kirkes and I've got Rico Lewis, who I expect to come back into the team, albeit we know there's rotation there. So even if he does, then I can look at it and take him out. If I wildcard early into next year, when we get that second wildcard, it may be something that I'll remove. In fact, I have already looked at taking out Mitoma and Estupinian this week for a -4.
Wow.
I'm really big on Gordon. I just really like how he looked last game. So I could do Mitoma to Estupinian for Gordon and Hall for a -4. And it's something that the old me would have done. This year, I'm playing a little bit more sensible. And I don't like it, but it's so far working. So I think there's a lot of value in holding transfers over the next few, especially with the fixture turn for Erling Haaland, who, he's not shown any form, but he's got the fixtures to turn it around. So I'd like to be in a position where I can make the moves if I want to. But at the moment, that's where I'm at. Sorry to go off on a tangent.
No, it's a very valid point you make, Bhuna, because it feels like that sort of season where building transfers, because of the 5, free transfers we can bank up now, it feels so more important than ever with, tight deadlines, quick game weeks coming up and fixture turns where, players like Haaland, who, has not quite had the recent form that we would expect him to, will become more important with Man City's fixture turn, and he might come a bit more into our captaincy considerations in the coming weeks. So having that flexibility I think is key. But all in all, you've had a really good season, Bhuna. So I think your bad week this week, as you said, it's not too bad, because 143k is a great place to be. So yeah, very well done. Even though, you know, I think going forward you can get more green arrows. Going on to my team, we mentioned Lewis Hall just then. So that is a bit of a story for me this game week, Lewis Hall. It was a painful story, unfortunately, because
Oh wow.
when we had Steve-O and Jason from Elite FPL on in the last episode, we kind of were talking about, because I've got quite a kind of high number of options for my defense. I got good squad depth. And we were talking about, should we play Porro against Southampton, which felt, you know, an absolute must play, or should we play Lewis Hall? And Steve-O, which I understood and agreed with, was thinking you can't not play Porro against Southampton. And then sort of like early sort of morning on Saturday, you know, late on Friday, we got sort of murmurings that Porro was out, you know, falling out perhaps with Postecoglou after their, you know, Europa League game. And there was benching kind of rumours. And I considered all of those. And actually, funnily enough, legend from the community, Jan Batra, went on his space before the deadline, and we were kind of discussing it, and I couldn't decide. And I ended up starting Pedro Porro because I thought to myself, well, it's a great fixture. And even if he doesn't start, I think he could come on and get attacking returns. Now, it's funny how it plays out because I benched Lewis Hall thinking, well, the Pope's now injured, so Dubravka's going to be in goal for Newcastle. Hopefully, Leicester can score. And Hall's got no attacking returns the times that I've owned him. So hopefully he won't be too damaging. And of course, the way FPL can be, he gets a 15-pointer. And I was thinking, it looking good, Kanji, because in the Spurs game, Porro's on the bench. I'm thinking, right, just don't come on, don't come on. He comes on after 28 minutes, although he does bank the clean sheet, which is at least nice because he played 62 minutes in the end. It's a painful thing to see on that Saturday, Hall on my bench. So, yeah, what do you think about that? Do you think that was the right call to play Porro over
Yeah,
Hall?
that's a tough one. Honestly, that's pretty tough, especially given that Pope was injured. But I still think playing Porro, if you own him, like just makes sense. Like regardless of like the benching rumor, I would have always gone for him. What do you think, Buna?
Awful decision, honestly, absolutely awful decision, and you got deservedly punished. I'll be honest with you, mate. Have you seen Tottenham play recently? Honestly, okay, I know Southampton are abysmal, but Spurs just can't defend with so many defensive injuries. Okay, look, they kept a clean sheet, and you know, it just so happened Pedro Porro, luckily for you, came on before 30 minutes. God, imagine he'd come on
Yeah,
31 minutes,
yeah.
be fuming. But no, I would have played Hall all day long over Pedro Porro, and that's
Mm.
I'm historically a very biased Tottenham manager, but Spurs have broken me.
You've had too many weeks of pain. I understand it. It's fair. So it is one of those things where it's a shame to see that, but at the end of the day, still nice to get clean sheets from all my defenders. So Flecken once again with the 3 points. He doesn't get
Roberto, you're such a show off, by the way. 61 points with Hall on the bench. Like, give me them 15 points. I still wouldn't have got your score. Seriously,
Wow,
that's incredible.
crazy.
You still had a great game. You still had a great game week, mate. Well played.
Thank you, mate. No, I appreciate that. Look, at the end of the day, I find ways to make myself score less points, but in the end, hopefully, I try to make it up with other players. So it's all good. No, 61 points was a relief, to be honest, this game week to get the green arrow. It was largely down to my defense, to be honest, because there weren't many other returns. Flecken, as I said, always does concede, but he's just been sat there rotting away because I haven't been too bothered about changing him. But Gabriel was lovely with a 9, and Timber also with that double Arsenal defence coming in clutch. The midfield, though, was quite simply abysmal. Just the one attacking return from Salah, who I ended up not captaining. It was close between him and Palmer for the captaincy, but I just looked at Fulham's, form, especially defensively this season, and they have been one of the better kind of mid-table teams. And Liverpool, yes, they've been in great form, but I looked at that Brentford game for Chelsea and just thought there was going to be goals in that. Unfortunately, nothing for Palmer, but he got a weird bonus point. There's a kind of weird change there. So at least I got 3 from Palmer. And Saka also blanked. It's been a bit concerning recently, hasn't it, Kanji, about how many blanks Saka has got. So are you looking at him thinking he's not quite delivering considering his premium price, or are you just happy to leave him in there?
I think there's a couple of factors, right? One, he plays for an Arteta, which is like a very defensive system, right? So of the premiums between Saka, Palmer, Salah, he's the one to really bet against. Especially if you look at some of the graphics from like under the radar, you can see like how important and influential Salah and Palmer are. And I don't really see their form changing. And both of them are, Chelsea are second, like Liverpool are first. Like they're going to be fighting for the league. Their priority will be the Prem. You don't have to worry about them. Saka is the one where it's like, bro, like where are the points? What's happening? I don't know. I have this faith in Arsenal that I just expect them to turn it around. But for those people that have dropped Saka, gone for like Mbumo in that spot, and maybe have more money, their defense, maybe gone for triple Arsenal defense, those guys are eating. Like Let's Talk FPL, Search Half from FPL Optimize. Like these guys are killing it. So it's a tough one. I'd hold Saka personally, just because I think Arsenal will end up finishing second. A classic Arsenal. So that's why I'd hold them.
Yeah, it does feel like Saka, he's the sort of player when you don't own him, Bhuna, he goes off and does what he did against West Ham. But the weeks I've owned him, since I've brought him in for Mbumo, and Mbumo's done really well. So it's been quite painful to see. But do you think Saka, he's not the sort of player we tend to captain that often because his assist threat is almost higher than his goal threat most of the time. But he's still on penalties and obviously, you know, on set pieces. So would you think about captaining him in any kind of the upcoming weeks?
I want to see how he does over the next week in particular. Maybe next 2 weeks. I mean, you're not going to sell him before Ipswich at home. But if he continues to blank over the next two, and I say this with a pinch of salt, Haaland's not looked great recently, but if he does start to improve his form over the next two, and Saka continues to look a little bit mediocre, at least from a returns perspective, then I think we've got a bit of a decision to make, and one I'm not afraid to make personally. And I think I don't think many people will be going there. Personally, I've always said I don't think Haaland's worth the money unless you're going to captain him every single week. I've seen some clowns go 4 premiums. Like, they're the absolute idiot. Seriously, apologies. Don't mind me saying, but I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Bhuna. I think 4 premiums is just way too much, and it means you make too many sacrifices in the rest of your team. So,
like Ash. I think Ash has done any clown, absolute clown.
Yeah, he's got players like Patson Daka in his team, so you know, there's always that. No, of course. To be fair, Ash did start the season really well, so I guess he's got room to maybe have a few bad game weeks. But it is one of those things. It's tough to go all in on those premiums. We've got to kind of pick our poison. But the rest of the midfield was pretty shocking. Semenyo once again blanks. I did think about that West Ham game, and I looked at it, to be honest, Kanji, and I thought if you don't return against West Ham at home, that might be your last chance saloon. But Semenyo's interesting because he got the early sub in that West Ham game, which was a bit disappointing. Came off, and people were wondering, is it an injury? Is it just muscle tightness? And now he's got Man United away, which, you know, on paper's okay, but it's not amazing. But then obviously going forward, there are some cheap midfielders, you know, that potentially could be better. So would you be confident that Semenyo is still the best around that sort of price?
Yeah, Semenyo is one of the most interesting talking points, I think, in the community, because if you look at the fixtures coming up, right, like the next 8 weeks is like Man United, Everton, which is not a good fixture for attackers, Chelsea, Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, and Liverpool. Like, it's actually a pretty difficult run. Now, I shouldn't be really including Man United in terms of difficult attacking fixtures, but in general, like, it's like pretty mixed, especially when you have alternatives like Ahmad and Enzo, who have basically been returning every single week, and they're cheaper. The temptation is there. But the fixtures afterwards for Semenyo, like after that, like the run later on from 25 is gorgeous for Bournemouth. So I'm hoping personally myself, like I've already gone onto the Almad and Enzo train. So I'm hoping that they go up in price. So by the time we get to 25, I can switch back to Semenyo when he's fallen. But if I owned Semenyo, I think I would hold personally. Like I think he's the best pick of all these guys long term. At least that's what I believe. But it's tough. Like I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's tough because he's low owned at the moment, Buna, because a lot of people have got rid. So you've potentially got an opportunity there, I think, where if you stay patient with him and he comes good with these okay fixtures coming up, it could be a nice way to kind of maybe gain up the ranks.
Got rid, rightly so, Roberto. Now, have a look at his returns over the last 9 game weeks. He's got 1 return over the last 9 game weeks. Those teams that he's been playing against are nowhere near as good as the teams that he's got coming up. Now, I'm not saying that means that he's going to score less against them. It may just be he's a big team player. I haven't looked at the history, but I'm a fixtures player, and we all play this game differently. But for me, he's a sell. He has to be. The thing is, he passes the eye test. I saw some tweets about his attacking output, like in terms of how many shots he's having and stuff. It's all good, but they're off lower quality and lower XG. So for me, I wouldn't be holding on to him personally.
That's interesting.
He hit the post this week. So you did get
I saw.
Like if you watch the games, like you know Semenyo's a baller, bro. Like of all these guys, like that are in the cheap price bracket, He's the best player. The problem is like there's no like high floor because he's not on set pieces, he's not on corners, not on free kicks, not on pens. Like you need an open play goal. That's the problem.
Only problem is we get no points for him being a baller. We get
Yeah.
points for attacking returns, and if he's not delivering consecutively, it's not great.
Yeah, no, it's a very valid point you make, Buna. I definitely understand that logic, and yeah, it will be something I'll be considering going forward because, as you said earlier, there are some great cheap midfield options to look at, and they can help free up funds for potentially premium players like Trent and potentially Haaland if he gets back to scoring goals. Yeah, so the rest of the front three was mixed, let's say, because both Jackson and Cunha did well with their 9 pointers. It was lovely to see Jackson get a little bonus boost as well there. And Cunha, yeah, we'll have to see. He's my potential route, I think, to Isak. I'm hoping that Cunha's ban does come in immediately because then I could just switch back to Isak because I took Isak out for Jackson, which over the last few weeks has been painful, but it's been nice to see finally that Jackson got his return, and it was a really, really nice finish. So I'm looking to hold him going forward. The one that's frustrating, Buna, is Chris Wood because he's been my guy for a long, long time, and he scores that goal against Villa, and then VAR cruelly rules it out. So I don't intend to sell Chris Wood because I see a lot of people potentially looking at they moving on to Chris Wood. So would you still keep faith in the Kiwi?
Yeah, I mean, he's looked really good this season. He's, everyone's got their own sort of talismanic type of players that they really like. He's not one of mine, so I can't go there. Like, something about, maybe it's just because he plays for Forest, too. Yes, okay, they're having a great season. So it's not for me, but like you said, so many people are talking about bringing him in as an option. Does he have really good fixtures or something? I've not looked at him.
Well, this is the issue. The fixtures are kind of a bit okay-ish. They're not amazing, but you could potentially look at Brentford away as one of the kind of good fixtures for attacks because of how Brentford have defended the season. And then Spurs at home. I know that you're a Spurs fan, Buna, but that you have conceded a lot of goals this season. So potentially
that's
Forest,
not bad. That's not a bad fixture for him, though. Yeah.
Exactly. And then Everton away, yeah, maybe tricky because Everton have been quite good defensively. Wolves away looks good, and then it's Liverpool. So it is a bit of a mixed bag. So
he's like the opposite. He's like the anti-Semenyo, isn't he? He doesn't like look nothing amazing, but he's just delivering.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, so close to getting another goal.
You can't get rid of him. I think he's an easy hold.
Yeah, I think so. So close to getting another goal in game week 16. So I'm happy to have him. And then on the bench, I had Bender, the 4.0 Fulham backup, just as a bench fodder. And then Rodders.
What's his name?
I believe it is.
Wait, no, sorry. I genuinely didn't think. I don't know if I'd heard you correct.
Yeah, you heard me correct. Stephen Bender. That's his name. Yeah, no, it's quality. It's quality. Rodgers with 2. As I said, Hall with 15, but at least Porro made up for it just slightly. And then Semenyo last on bench with the 1. So very pleased with that. Huge game week. Finally, with a bit of momentum now, back-to-back green arrows up to 528k, which was really welcome. So looking at your game week, Kanji, 62 points, so just 1 point ahead of me this week, but very good week for you as well. So you made just 1 transfer. I mean, I've been in this situation, the way my season's gone, to be honest, Kanji. The weeks I've rolled, which was like last week, I've just got green arrows. But you made a bold move of Enzo in for Mbumo, and unfortunately, Mbumo did that goal, didn't he?
And I also benched. I was going to bench Mbumo, so it doesn't really matter to me. Like this season overall has been crazy. I was on team no Haaland from game week 1. But what happened is I wildcarded and I took Salah out and I put Son in. And that swing has been drastic. Like if you look at the FPL points, like it's Salah's at 150 and Son's at 75. Like I genuinely can't believe that's how big the swing has been. And that's basically what's costed me my season. So I had to like find a route to get back to Mo. Like there's nothing really to say about that. So he's done enough damage and it's time to just turn it around. So I was looking at my team and trying to find the funds. I wasn't going to take it from Raya, Gabriel, or Trent. So I'm happy to just hold those guys long term. And so to me, I just thought the best spots to take it out of my team are going to be like the Brennan Johnson spot, the Bumo spot, downgrade those to like cheap guys and upgrade Son to Salah. So that's sort of what my plan is over the next couple of weeks. But I'm happy to have like the double Arsenal defense finally return. Trent is my favorite player in like the world. Like I wake up, like I live in Toronto, so the games are at like 7 a.m. So I wake up to watch Trent play football. So if he's fit, he's in my team. It's like one of those like club bias, So Like happy to have him, and he is one of the best differentials coming forward after the Spurs match. Liverpool fixtures are absolutely gorgeous, by the way, and so happy to own him. I've also doubled up on a Liverpool defense. I went with Joe Gomez, similar to you, Roberto. I had a 50-50 decision. I don't know if it's a skill issue or a little bit of Liverpool bias, but I also did bench Lewis Hall, who picked up 15 points, which is crazy because I played Joe Gomez and like he's like in the better defense. Let me tell you a story. My defense, my FPL bench averages 9 points per game. That actually puts me in the top 5% of the entire FPL game, which is crazy. So I've just made a lot of incorrect 50-50 calls this year. And this is a perfect example. Like Brennan Johnson, 0 points. Joe Gomez, 1 point. Could have easily have started those two this week, but it is what it is. And so just need to find a route back to Mo. That's like what my thoughts are.
It's interesting that I'm looking here at your team, Kanji, and Bhuna, I don't know if you've noticed this, but he brought in Enzo to then bench him. So was it just a long-term plan? I understand that. And Johnson did have Southampton, so it's tricky. But was there potentially minutes risks from your
Before you answer that, Kanji, at least you've got Enzo coming in for Johnson, haven't you? Look, they haven't done the project.
0 for 5. Yeah.
Bro, the funny thing is, bro, I had Son, right? So Son had like the goal and 2 assists at halftime. So I'm like, okay, fine, he's subbing off, whatever. It's still a massive differential haul. Nobody owns him. Johnson's coming in. I'm like, yo, they'll probably score another 3 goals in the second half, right? Bro, the guy came on, got booked, and gave me 0 points.
It's cruel. It is cruel. No, it's a very, very funny point you make there, Bhuna. I definitely agree. But it's interesting because you've now got a really nice squad depth. Going forward, you've got options playing in that attack. You know, when Johnson potentially, if he's a minute's risk, you can then start Enzo. So it's not a terrible place to be in. But yeah, interesting. The rest of your team, I have to say, like it's interesting. You've gone with 2 Liverpool defense, 2 Spurs attack. You've kind of gone a lot of eggs in one basket, which is interesting. I like that style of play. It's aggressive, but ultimately, yeah, we've talked about Pedro already and Cunha. So, yeah, very good week, 62. So, yeah, nice stuff. And
you know, it's been a tough season. This is actually my second. This is the first time I've had 2 green arrows in a row, and it's like game week 16. It's been a tough season. So Brennan Johnson's gone as well this week. Like
I've seen people go from your rank to like 800k in 2 game weeks, even recently though.
Yeah.
So you're in a fine place. But I just wanted to ask you about your emotions when you saw Fulham score and Robertson get sent off, having owned 2 Liverpool defensive assets and being a Liverpool fan. Just talk us through your emotions in that game.
It's more so about Salah every week. He's like my main threat every week, right? But it's the thing with Mo is like he's like the most captain player every week as well.
Can you be a Liverpool fan and not have Mo captain?
I get this all the time. Listen. I'll be honest.
You're
it's
a
like
fan. It's not even got triple. You're not even got triple.
So it's like it's just a skill issue not owning Mo at this point. It just is like as soon as the red card happened, like what's interesting is they conceded before the red, and so I was already, as soon as the goal went in, I'm like, all right, this game is already done for me. So when the red happened, I'm like, okay, at least now Salah's ceiling won't be high. So I was pretty happy when the red happened.
That's an interesting way of seeing it. Fair enough.
So yeah.
At least you know that your team is good enough to potentially bench boost in a few weeks' time because you got 20 points this week. So that would have been a great
seriously. I could have bench boosted any week the last like 5 weeks. I would have killed it. But just like talking about my team going forward, like I've already done like Bumo to Enzo to get some money to upgrade Son. I've also done Brennan Johnson down to Ahmad. So now I have like 2 of the best budget midfielders. And then I'm just going to upgrade Son whenever I get the transfer. What do you guys think about doing that move this week? But it's for a -4. That's the problem. And Son is at home. Yeah.
100% do it.
Damn.
I would. Genuinely, I would. But it depends on your risk appetite.
Yeah. So, like, what's interesting is, like, the swing factor is that Spurs play Man United on Thursday. And I think Postecoglou will go, like strong first 11 in the cup to try to win. So if he plays 90 and hopefully Salah just gets 0 minutes versus Southampton, it's like the perfect narrative for me to just take the -4.
The team's up for that. It's tonight, isn't it, that game?
Oh, yeah, damn. Good point.
Well, that's interesting. We'll see from that game what we can kind of deduce going forward. But really interesting stuff. I really like that team, Kanji. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit refreshing. So, really nice stuff. And nice green arrow for you. Yeah, as Bhuna said, keep chipping away, because even though you're at 2.1 million, in a few weeks' time, that could really shoot up inside the top million. So keep grinding. So those are our game week 16 results. We'll talk through our potential transfer plans in a second. Before we do that, we'll kind of potentially look at some differentials for the upcoming week. It was interesting last week's differentials. There was some mixed returns. Actually, I have to say, well done to Jason from Elite FPL, because he is now the first guest we've had on to get full returns from all three of his picks. So De Bruyne, Enzo, and Ahmad all getting returns in game week 16. So well done to Jason. Steve-O had just De Bruyne. Chris had just Madueke. And I had just Cody Gakpo, which was rough when I had Porro. I wanted to not come on Kanji in that Southampton game. And then one of my differentials last week was Udogi. And Udogi comes off with an injury for Porro. I mean, you couldn't have written it. It's just
that's crazy.
It's painful stuff. So yeah, really interesting ahead of this week. Chris is still top with 9 points for the differentials, and I'm still in 8th on second with 8 points. It's very tight. Yeah, you got people with 3, 2, and 1. Let's see how we can do this game week, and we'll start with you, Bhuna, if that's okay. What players are you looking at ahead of game week 17 and 18 to potentially rise some managers up the ranks, really?
Oh, you've got me on the spot there. So, the only reason I say that is at the moment, I think I mentioned earlier, I'm looking to potentially roll my transfer this week. In the Elite FPL Discord, we have a conversation this morning, and one of the guys in there put my team through the FPL Review AI bot or something, and gives you predictions.
Yeah,
and music to my ears, the first prediction was roll your transfer. So that was good to know that it sort of aligned with what I'm thinking. And the reason why I'm thinking that is I just want a bit more flexibility for either bringing in the likes of a Haaland in 19 or bringing in some extra Liverpool assets in 18, where they've got Leicester at home on Boxing Day. Yeah, I want some of that. I won't tell you who, because again, this is a differential. I'm sure you've got an idea who when I say that, but we'll come on to it. So I'm eyeing up some Liverpool assets. I should probably say, actually, shouldn't I? I'm eyeing up certain Diogo Jota. Now, I'm a big Jota fanboy. I have been for a few years. I've loved him when he was at Wolves, loved him under Liverpool. And when fit, he's the number one. He is the number one player there, in my opinion. So I'm hoping he gets some minutes tonight. What do you think we should expect from him tonight, or want from him tonight, for him to be an option over the next few weeks? A cameo off the bench, or start?
Is he starting tonight or no?
I don't think we've got team news yet.
Yeah, no. So there was news that Trent starts, Kwanzaa starts, Van Dijk and Salah are not in the squad.
Yeah, Jota's interesting, I think, Bhuna, because going into that Boxing Day game, you can spin it both ways, can't you? You can spin it as there's a game, obviously, I think, end of January, so there's kind of tight turnaround to the Boxing Day match. But then there's also a bit of a gap between the game against Spurs and the game against Leicester. So you can kind of think, well, the chances are he might get played in that Leicester game because potentially there's a stronger match in that Spurs game, a more important match. You can kind of rotate. You're starting forward. Probably Luis Diaz has been kind of lining up for Liverpool in the forward position the last couple of games. Jota came off the bench against Fulham and obviously got that goal. So maybe you could see Jota start against Leicester, but also with the tight turnaround and also what we've been discussing with, rotation in December, is it just too risky, do you think, Jota, or do you think he actually will start the next few?
I think he will start against Leicester. I don't think he starts at Tottenham. I think that game's a bit more intense, especially with the way Tottenham play. I think he's a perfect impact sub in that game. But I think he'll be willing to start him as long as he comes through unscathed tonight and at the weekend. At Leicester at home, I think he could well start in that game. And what time do they play on that day, actually? Because obviously there's team news and all of that sort of fun stuff. Do they all play at the same time? Is there a lunchtime kickoff?
So I believe the Leicester game is an 8 o'clock kickoff. So the deadline for that is
11.
Quite early, yeah. So you're kind of not going to probably get team news. So
I think I'd still take the risk. I'll be honest. I like that player that much. I genuinely think I may just take the risk. And yeah, I think for that reason alone, I'm very likely to hold my transfer this week. As tempting as a hit for Gordon and Hall this week is, I think there's more gains to be had.
Yeah. No, I
think. Are you just gonna?
Sorry,
Are you just gonna Are you just going to hold Jota till the double game week potentially in 24 then? Is that your plan?
Depends. Like if I bring him in and he doesn't start, and he comes off the bench and looks good, I'll keep him in the hope that he then maybe starts the next one. But if he gets back to back, he's on the bench again, then obviously I'll need to get rid of him. It'll all be circumstantial. Depends on the circumstance at the time.
No,
But I think I'll likely be doing. I could be, and I've actually only thought about this on this call, on this podcast rather. This call feels like a call on this podcast. So it may involve selling someone like an Isak, but I don't mind doing it. It's risky, but we'll see when we come to it.
Okay, well,
Lots
I like
of variables.
I do like that. What's your second pick for this weekend then?
My second differential pick?
Yep.
I'll tell you all three. One of them, it's Diego Jota, Gordon, and Bowen.
Okay, so
Gordon's still 9%, Bowen 6.9.
Gordon's obviously got Ipswich and Villa in 17-18, isn't it? It's quite nice fixtures.
Yeah, there's not many teams that have two back-to-back nice fixtures. That's the problem in 17 and 18. I think that's as close as it gets, to be honest, apart from a Chelsea. But there's not many differentials left there, apart from who Juice talked about yesterday, someone like a Malo Gusto. With Cucurella out, he could be an outside punt if you don't have Chelsea cover like me. But again, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, what do you think about Gordon? As Bhuna mentioned, Kanji. Obviously, with those games, it looked great from an attacking perspective. Both Ipswich and Villa, struggling defensively, and obviously Ipswich haven't won a home game all season. So, do you think Gordon at 7.2? Would you say he's a bit too pricey, or do you think he's worth paying that extra over the likes of your Semenyos and your Matomas, that sort of player?
I think it really just depends if you buy into that idea of Gordon returning only in the home games, because like some of these games are away, but they're good attacking fixtures. And like if you had Isak for these games, bro, I genuinely might captain Isak against Spurs. Like no offense, Buna, but like that is a great fixture for him. And like I would expect Gordon to return as well. But I just think at 7.2, I prefer Diogo Jota if you can get the minutes right. That's the thing. Like Jota is the best like dice roll in the games. I do prefer him over Gordon, but Gordon's a good pick in his own right. And like if you zoomed out and you saw more of the fixtures, like the fixtures coming up after are still really good for him too.
100%. No, really like that. And your last pick was Bowen. So what do you think about Bowen, Bhuna? Because obviously he's great against Wolves in recent game weeks, but then obviously the blank in that Monday night game. So are you confident to be consistent enough?
So I bought him for, if you just click on history for me for a second.
Yep.
I bought him in game week for the Leicester game, so game week 14, and he looked unreal. You see the XGI in that game. He looked incredible. And then he finally returned the game week after. He had chances yesterday as well, so I'm not in too much of a rush. His next two fixtures are Brighton at home and Southampton away, and I think they're quite nice fixtures for him. I think regardless of how he does in those two fixtures, though, in game week 19, I'll probably sell him because, like I said, I play this game based on fixtures. I'm very much fixtures over form, and I don't like Liverpool and City in the next two, albeit City haven't looked good. Then they've got Fulham, Palace, Villa, Chelsea. Again, they don't stand out to me as anything too amazing, so I'm going to give him 2 more weeks here. He does. If you didn't own him right now, question for you guys: would you consider him? Probably not, maybe not, because of the money.
I think as well, like Mbumo's obviously done well, and I understand those that still want to sell Mbumo with the fixtures. But I also think buying into a West Ham team that are just so inconsistent at the moment, I just wouldn't go there personally. But I don't know about you, Kanji.
I mean, he's guaranteed for 10 points in the next 2 weeks. So it just depends if you have luxury moves to like do this transfer. Like I have other pressing issues where it's like I need to figure out other core pieces. But if I had the core pieces in place like Roberto does and I had this price point, I would be tempted for sure because it's guaranteed he's getting at least a goal in this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I understand that. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, then in terms of your differentials, Kanji, what are you looking at ahead of game week 17?
So it's funny, like Bhuna, what we were thinking very similar because we're looking at the next 2 weeks in particular. Liverpool's fixtures stand out very nicely. So you have like the Spurs fixture, which is great for attackers. So Luis Diaz is too highly owned for the 10%. So I also consider Diego Jota. But if we're going to compete and we're making this a competition to see who gets the most points, you can have him. I'll take Cody Gakpo. Now, I think what's interesting is that Cody Gakpo will be in the left wing position. He probably will get his minutes managed. He might even start this game against Southampton. But bro, in 20 minutes off the bench, I think Gakpo can return. And like the thing is he's playing in that left winger spot, and Salah likes to cut in and pass to the left winger rather than pass to the striker. Jota's sort of like a link up play guy. So I'd love to take that on for 2 weeks, and let's see if Gakpo can get some points as a differential. I love that. And then my second one is going to be Jared Bowen as well. The Brighton and Southampton fixtures, like guaranteed points for West Ham, I think. And Bowen will definitely get a goal. Like, what's interesting is he's like clinical, right? I looked at his XGI in the last couple of weeks. He had 2.5 XGI, which is solid. So he's basically averaging like 0.8 XGI in the last 3 weeks. So he's killing it. You can trust him. He's a good quality player, 90 minutes. But we saw he didn't take the penalty. That would have been some extra jam for those Bowen owners. But it is what it is. I still really like him as a pick, even without Depends. And then my last differential is somebody you guys will probably not like, but it's going to be somebody from Arsenal. He had a very poor performance and actually got an early sub for them, but I'm backing him to have a bounce back. And that's going to be Martin Odegaard, the captain. These two fixtures coming up for Odegaard are actually Martin Odegaard fixtures. What's happening is that Crystal Palace and Ipswich are going to sit deep. They're going to set up in a low block. But the onus is going to be on Saka and Odegaard to break down this team and for them to score goals. I back them to pick up 3 or 4 goals in the next 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, those fixtures, Bhuna, they're looking lovely, aren't they? Away to Palace, who have had their defensive problems this season, even though their form has had a recent pickup. And then Ipswich at home for Arsenal. You'd imagine Odegaard, with how creative he is, should get a few returns there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. I like it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the kind of influence that Odegaard can have on that Arsenal team is so key. And at 5.9% owned, you know, if you've got money, he's like a luxury, obviously, because he's quite expensive. But there's not many better as alternatives to Bukayo Saka, as we've said, whose form has recently not quite been up to his price. So yeah, I really love those differentials. And thanks for those, Kanji, and thanks for those, Bhuna. My differentials this week, I've gone for a few outside the box punts because you know they're under 10%. They've got a little bit different. See what you think about this. My first one, despite how poor Man City have been,
I'm going
to back against the current form of that team, and surely they've got to return to some sort of form soon. So I'm going for Bernardo Silva in the next couple of games, just because I think these 2 games could be good ones for Man City. Away to Villa, who we know concede a lot of goals, and he's got a nice record up at Villa Park, and then also Everton at home, who, yeah, defensively this season, I think they've been much better at home when it comes to away games. They kept a clean sheet against Arsenal just then, but I think Man City surely have to hit a few past that Everton side. So what do you reckon about that, Kanji? Do you think Bernardo Silva could get a few returns? Because he feels like he's fairly nailed in that team, doesn't he?
Honestly, I think this might be the worst differential of them all. Because the Man City right-hand side doesn't exist, bro. Like, I watch them, I'm like, bro, everything is going through it. They're all filtering towards like Jeremy Doku. If they're on the right-hand side, it goes to KDB. So, but I don't know. Bernardo has the minutes, but it's just like Doku passes the eye test more for that price. I don't know.
I guess it's that thing with Doku, isn't it, Bhuna, that you're just always questioning, will he start? And I guess we know with Bernardo he will. So can you understand that?
There's that about Doku, and then there's also the fact that he's absolutely trash. When you pulled up Man City, I was like, okay. And then you were scrolling down, and I was like, I saw KDB there, 4.9%. I was like, okay, I see where he's going. And then he says Bernardo Silva. I'm like, hey, Roberto, are you okay? Seriously, honestly, you got Kevin De Bruyne there, 4.9%, and you pick Bernardo Silva.
Yeah, well, the thing is, De Bruyne is a lot of money, right? And obviously, he got the assist. As much as a lot of people argued it was dubious in that Man United game after the deflection, I understand why he did get it, you know, with the intended assist kind of rule. But De Bruyne is just, he's not quite hauled this season, I think. And whereas Bernardo Silva, he's probably that sort of player, will probably blank, and then might just be a game where it all goes right for him. I think maybe this could be one of these 2 fixtures against Villa or Everton. Yeah. Maybe. We'll see. But it's a bit of a bold punt, I'm aware. My next one, see what you think about this one, Kanji, is someone who's been in great form. His team has been in great form, and the fixture in game week 17 especially is as best as you can get, I would imagine. So I've gone for Alex Iwobi. He's in great form for Fulham, and he's only priced at 5.7 million. So if you want to, you know, have a little saving on some of those other midfielders, you can do. He's fairly nailed as well. So, you know, a lot of people looking at Jimenez, but obviously there's Muniz who scored against Liverpool, and you don't know how many minutes that could take off Jimenez. So at least with Iwobi, you feel like he's going to play a lot of the games. And yeah, he's in really, really good form now. This season, he's had a really good bump up of his numbers, 5 goals, 3 assists, and Southampton.
Wow.
Chelsea as well, which I don't think is a terrible game. So do you like the Iwobi pick, Kanji?
Yeah, this is amazing. This is like a level above the Bernardo pick, to be honest. Like, I cannot believe this guy has 80 FPL points. That's
It's crazy.
nuts. Like, bro, this is a great breakout season for him. Great pick.
I'm hoping that can do well because he's quite a under the radar asset. Not many people look at Iwobi, Bhuna, and say, "Oh, that's a sexy pick. I want to bring him in." But we just got to
for good reason. For good reason.
I understand it for a lot of good reasons. But when players are in purple patch kind of form, I guess it's like we were saying earlier with Wood. Sometimes you just have to try and adapt to it a little bit. But my last pick, and you might slate me for this one as well, Bhuna. We'll see. But I've gone for Nottingham Forest's Gibbs White. Now, the last few weeks he's done really well. Obviously, the next 2 fixtures are, as we mentioned earlier, Brentford and Spurs. And obviously, he is that kind of, compared to Wood, he's that worst Forest attacking option. But for the kind of role he has in that team, he's obviously come back from his injury he had a few weeks back. Do you like Gibbs White at just 1.3% owned?
Not for me. I personally think I prefer the 5 million and sub 5 million players, the likes of to be fair, I don't know why I didn't put him down here. Jacob Murphy, 4.9 million. I love him as a bit of a punt. But Enzo, Ahmad, I think there's too many other players, a bit less. So for me, it's a no. And I think if you're going to go Forest, you're going to go Wood.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. He's that talisman in the past for Forest, but it's just not been amazing for him this season. But maybe the last kind of few weeks, his returns might be a sign of things to come. We'll have to see. But those are our differentials for game week 17 and 18. Let's see how those get on. And
the
Liverpool team's out, by the way.
I saw, bro. There's basically just it's just Trent and then Gakpo. Everybody else is like a young guy.
Interesting. Wow.
Doctor's on the bench. That's interesting.
Ooh, interesting. Well, that's food for thought, definitely, with those differential chat. Thanks for those differentials, everyone. Okay, what we're going to do now is briefly touch on the mini league. So we had the game week 16 results, and as always, it's really exciting because when we have the mini league, Bhuna, I mean, there's just so much drama. There's kind of tight tables. A lot of the time, you can have a bad game week, and then if you've done well in the mini league, then it gives a kind of nice motivation going forward. So I had a match up against Richard Adams, and it's fair to say demolished him 61-31. So very, very nice there. And also Chris, he had his matchup. He's been really, really good this season in the mini league, and he's currently second behind absolutely incredible Oli Ide this season. Keeps on winning. But Chris won his game narrowly, as you can see there, 60-57 over Stuart Davies. So keeping kind of track with the top of the table, but just that 1 point behind Oli Ide, he's on 40 points now, with 13 wins from the first 16 game weeks. It is incredible stuff. So yeah,
he needs to be examined for FFP. I reckon he's got some issues there, to be honest.
He must have a ridiculous squad value, yeah, because he just keeps on getting wins. It's very well done. I'm sat in 11th at the moment, so mid-table, but we'll take that considering early on in the season I was looking like a potential relegation candidate. But at the moment, we're bottom 3. We've got deleted player in 26th. He actually rose up in game week 16, but he still occupies the bottom 3. We've also got Sugar FC and Uncle Napoli there in bottom. So we'll see how it looks after game week 17-18's fixtures, but definitely some interesting movers and shakers there. And then the next thing we're going to do is just potentially look at captaincy. So how are your kind of lineup looking this week, Kanji? And what sort of captain option are you looking at for game weeks 17 and 18 probably?
Yeah, I imagine my team is a little bit spicier than you guys. You're looking at Salah away at Spurs. Spurs have been a bottom half defense in general. They concede a lot of big chances. So if you have Mo, you're just gonna captain him. Realistically, there's Palmer playing away at Everton. If he was at home, there was an argument for him. But for me personally, I'm really considering even captaining Son. I think he could actually get a return away at Liverpool. I know how crazy that sounds, given how good Liverpool are defensively. I'm considering captaining Isak as well against Ipswich. If Isak had the fixture he had last week where he was playing Leicester at home, if that was this week, I would be on Isak captain. He'd be the perfect differential. Ipswich is like slightly better, I think, than Leicester. I'm like Leicester feel like the team to target. So personally, I think I'm going to be looking to captain Isak or -4 and captain Salah this week.
Yeah, that makes sense. So with those transfers you mentioned earlier, Kanji, are you looking to stick with those and not make any more?
Yeah, I mean, it feels terrible being like 100 points from the top 100K and then taking a -4 to put Salah in my team, which is very template, but it feels like the right move. Like betting against Salah isn't the type of thing that's going to gain you rank this year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think Salah's just been so inevitable this season. In terms of your kind of captaincy plans, then, Bhuna, what are you looking at ahead of game week 17 and 18, that sort of period of fixtures?
So up until the Palmer captaincy, the game week before, away at Tottenham, I'd never captained against Tottenham in my 10, 11 years playing the game.
Wow.
But we've been so bad, so I had to do it. So I've broken the seal, and that's where I'm going again. I think you can't look beyond Salah. I think it's a very easy decision. You may go Palmer for a bit of a differential, but as we've discussed, Everton at home defensively aren't too bad at all. So it doesn't stink of too many goals. I think it's going to be Salah.
I think looking at game week 18's fixtures for the Boxing Day games, it feels quite wide open, especially if we end up bringing Haaland back by then, which I doubt will be the case for a lot of teams. The way it's set up at the moment, a lot of people have sold him. But I mean, if you have Haaland, home to Everton doesn't look bad. And then obviously you've got potentially Saka against Ipswich. Potentially, I think a lot of people will go for Salah against Leicester. So do you think Kanji that just going with Salah makes the most sense, or would you look at some alternatives?
Bro, Leicester are like the best fixture to attack. It's all at home as well against Leicester. I mean, bro, that's a no-brainer. You could hat-trick in that game. Like, the thing is that Arsenal is the real fixture. That's the perfect differential to take on Mo. But Arsenal's open play threat has been so low that there's no logical reason to do it. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, my whole plan from like weeks ago was to captain Saka in this week, but I just can't. Like, it feels wrong. Like, you need to
Kanji, what if they beat Palace 4-0 away this weekend?
No, still. But they won't be Palace 4-0 away. Palace are a pretty solid defense, but if they do, I still wouldn't do it. Like, I still would captain.
So you're bringing in Salah this weekend, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. It's basically like Leicester are by far the best team to target. Like, their coach is just like, go have fun, basically.
Yeah, no, that I understand that. Salah is just looking too tempting in these next couple of weeks. In terms of your transfers then, Bhuna, ahead of 17, are you looking to kind of make any sort of moves outside of what we discussed earlier?
The role for me, it's really interesting though, because I've obviously considered those Newcastle assets. I don't know if you've seen the Newcastle team lineup. Same team as last weekend in the Premier League. The whole team starts. So we just got to be mindful now of injuries. Now, I don't wish injury on any player, but if someone by accident eats some dodgy food, I really wouldn't mind the likes of a Gordon or Hall missing out, I'll be honest with you. But yes, they both play tonight, so that'd be interesting.
That is intriguing. Well, we'll have to think about that, yeah, when it comes to kind of midweek minutes and who potentially could get a rest, because obviously Newcastle have got options. And Botman, I think there was a kind of midweek game or game the last week where there was a kind of under 21s match and he got some minutes for Newcastle. So obviously when Botman is fit to play Premier League games and when they've got options back, you know, potentially Hall could get a few rests. But for now, I think he's a great own and a hold. I've got Hall starting because I think off the back of last week, I can't really not do it. But he's got Ipswich, which looks great from an attacking point of view. So Flecken in goal for me at the moment. Gabriel, Hall, Timber and Semedo at the back. Semedo is one of those where I'm tempted to just sell him because Wolves are just trash. But I did hold him for this last game and I do intend to play him because it's quite nice. In all these weeks that I've had Semedo over Aït-Nouri, which has been painful, this week is the week I'll get the benefit because Aït-Nouri is suspended for his red card. And that's an important distinction, I think, that because he was on 4 yellows and he gets his first yellow and you're thinking, okay, fine, he's going to be suspended for 1 game for the 5-match ban, for the 5 yellow card ban. But actually now, because he got his red card after the game, he'll be back. It's not for the 4 yellows, basically, 5 yellows, basically. So he'll have still 4 yellows after he misses the game against Leicester. So basically, he will get that 5 yellow card match ban. So in a way, I'm kind of looking at that Semedo game and thinking, well, whilst like Nouri's not going to play, hope for a Semedo return and maybe get some sort of edge on those Aït-Nouri owners. But I don't know.
Hey, you should be grateful. He outscored Aït-Nouri by 3 points this game week just gone. That's the equivalent of a whole assist.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. I mean, I had him third on bench, but he's still.
Oh, you
he's
didn't have him playing. Oh, fair.
No, but he's still hopefully, he got a couple of assists kind of around sort of game week 7, 8, sort of 6, that sort of time. That's why I thought he was a good asset, but he's done nothing from an attacking return point of view since then. So I'm hoping he can just finally turn up with something.
If you were to sell him, where would you be going?
That's the problem. I don't really love the defending kind of options this week. I was more looking to roll and then get in someone like a Trent in game week 18. So I'm potentially looking at like cheap options around 18 and 19 to help facilitate Trent. Someone like a Munoz, who obviously suspended for game week 17. You've also got someone like Kirkes, who I quite like the look of. But I probably will just roll this week because I have looked at, I'd love to get Isak in, Kanji. But the problem I've got is I don't want to sell Jackson and I don't want to sell Chris Wood. So it would have to be for Cunha. But if Cunha's not going to miss the Leicester game, if the ban doesn't come in yet, then I don't think I can sell him really, can I?
Yeah, I think you're in a tough spot where if I had this team, I would see two problems. This is how I would see it. I see there's no Isak and then there's no Trent. That's like I would have to address one of them. That's how I would look at this team. Then the second thing is like I would never like choose to play four at the back personally. Like with this team and the Semenyo dealt, I think I would sell Semenyo and I would get to one of Ahmad or Enzo. And Ahmad rotates perfectly with Rodgers because Rodgers has 2 tough games and then he has really easy games after that. And Ahmad has like Bournemouth and Wolves coming up. So like that could be something you could consider to give you some money to maybe go up. If you sold Pedro Porro as well later on to get money to go up from Cunha to Isak. So you got to think about what's right for you, but that's what I would do.
No, I like that idea. So in that scenario, Kanji, would you be benching Semedo then for?
Oh yeah, bro. I'm not playing Semedo, bro. Like I don't personally like. I just can't. Like Wolves are gonna concede. They're away from home. Their defense is terrible. Semedo has no attacking threat apart from that one cross he had against Man City, bro. That cross was class. But apart from that, he doesn't do anything.
Oh yeah, that was frustrating. I had Guardiola or Lewis or double. I can't remember. I remember exactly the one you're talking about though.
Yeah.
It's the only good thing he's done all season.
Yeah, I know that lured me in. I think a little bit to try and get in on him and try and get an edge, but it was probably a bad move from my side. So yeah, I understand that. I do think Semenyo replacements. You could look at potentially Ahmad. You could look at Enzo, but I also don't hate some of the other alternatives. Like you've talked about Mitoma. Like I don't hate Mitoma because going forward, Brighton's fixtures, as much as their form hasn't been there, their fixtures, as you said, Bhuna, you're a fixtures sort of manager. I don't hate that. So I could potentially.
It's really interesting. The psychology of FPL is very interesting. Me as someone that's owned them for 4 weeks and they've done nothing, I'm very biased and really don't want them in my team. Someone who's watching that hasn't suffered the 1 and 2 pointers is like, I really want to buy him. That's what makes this game so exciting, though.
Interesting.
100%. Yeah, definitely agree. So yeah, we'll have to see how I end up choosing it. But at the moment, I've got those 4: Gabriel Hall, Timber, and Semedo. But I'll probably bench. I do understand that the clean sheets are not coming in at the moment, so I'll probably bench one of those defenders, replace Semenyo for one of those cheap mids. At the moment, I've got Salah on the captaincy. I think I'll probably keep it there because Spurs, the way they're defending, still it's just dreadful. I know that.
Also, Roberto, just before you move off your team, even if you were dead set on saving your transfer this week, I'd still play either of those attackers over Semedo. Just FYI.
Yeah.
City are absolutely woeful right now, and Rodgers is still looking good.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't hate Rodgers at home to Man City. If you have to play him, it's just I look at it and think Wood against Brentford is better. Jackson is better. Like there's just I feel like on paper it looks okay to bench Rodgers, but it could be one of those ones that he ends up doing well. So yeah, I also take that on board. Definitely, I agree with that, Bhuna. So yeah, we'll have to see. But I'm in a position where I'm in a kind of a luxury mode because ideally I'd love to get players like Jimenez or Iwobi or some of these fixtures for the good kind of runs, the fixture runs. But at the moment, I'm kind of project Trent. I think probably.
Oh wow!
I'd love to get Isak. I would, but we'll have to see with Cunha. But I'm definitely thinking I want Trent by 18. I think with those fixtures.
Yeah, me too.
I think probably what I'll look at doing is I've only got 0.2 in the bank. I can roll for 4 free transfers in 18, and then maybe I can do a few switcheroos to get Trent in, because I was looking at it and I might end up doing something like Ahmad in probably, alongside probably a cheap defender like a Kirkez or a Munoz. I could even bench one of my forwards I bring in for Cunha as part of that Trent move, like a Jimenez or someone that's, you know, likely to play minutes. So there's a few options there, but I have to have a little look. It depends on what happens in game week 17. So that's our teams for the game weeks and our potential captaincy and transfer plans. So yeah, hopefully you have a good game week, everyone. What we're going to now do is what we always love to do, and we love to end on the quiz. So this week it is a festive edition. So we usually do it on FPL or football, Bhuna, but seeing as, you know, it's Christmas and it's the Boxing Day games, I thought we'd do a few festive ones. So before we get to that, I have to mention that the recent Spotify Wrapped came out, and obviously that's kind of around Christmas time. And it's been really great to see that this year, you know, where the podcast has gone. So we've had a few stats come out about how the podcast has done this year, and it's been really humbling, to be honest. It's been really, really nice to see that 25 people that our podcast is the top podcast for them. Really, really appreciate that. They listened 3.2 times more than other listeners. So hopefully some good listens there. Listeners from 21 countries, which we're very happy with. Of course, most likely the most kind of followed is the United Kingdom, but our 83% of new listeners this year is a really, really nice thing to see. So yeah, thanks for those that do support the podcast. We recently had a vote on the Juice Show, which was really great to get your support, and we missed out very marginally to the legend that is FPL Nightmare. So we'll of course go for that again next week, the Content Creator Fund. So feel free to vote for us when that comes around at the end of January. But yeah, really appreciate the support from the community. So for the quiz, Bhuna, we always have this kind of like buzzer noise that we ask our guests that are coming on. What's their buzzer noise? So what are you feeling this week? Could be a word or a phrase, anything like that.
Inject it.
Inject it. I thought you might say that. Your lovely slogan. Fantastic stuff. Well, Kanji, what about you?
Let's just go with hello.
Yeah, you know what? It's lovely, nice and simple. Don't overcomplicate it for sure. Brilliant stuff. Well, the Christmas. What I'll say is the Quizmas, because that's a nice little word combo there. The Christmas theme is really dominating this quiz because it's all Christmas. So the first round is going to be based around Christmas food and drink. So I've got a few questions about Christmassy foods and drinks. Buzz in when you think you have an idea of an answer. So question number 1. According to tradition, to bring good luck, what should you eat on each day of the 12 days of Christmas? Buzz in when you think you know.
Inject it.
What are you saying?
I have no idea. Wine and bread.
Wine and bread, I'm afraid, is incorrect. So you're momentarily frozen out. Kanji, you can go for this one. If we don't get it, we can
bro,
move on.
I have no idea. I don't know. Turkey or something? Chicken? Let's go turkey. I don't know.
Turkey, I'm afraid, is incorrect. We're going to have to move on. The answer was mince pies for that one.
Okay.
Anyway, we move on. The next question. What is the name of the Italian cake-like bread originating from Milan? Yes?
Panettone.
Panettone is correct. Well done. Good start. Good start to the quiz. Yeah, well done. It was panettone. The next question for food and drink before we move on to the next round. The recipe for what sauce appears in the 1796 edition of The Art of Cookery by
Inject it.
Yeah,
Cranberry
Bhuna?
sauce.
Cranberry sauce is correct. You've been very quick with these buzzers, Bhuna. Well done. 2-0 up. That is very well done. That is, 2 from 3. And we move on to the next round, I'm afraid, Kanji. But there's still
all good.
To pull it back. So the next round is Christmas songs. Okay?
Okay.
I've got a few questions related to that. First one, 2-0 to Bhuna. It is, who wished it could be Christmas every day? Any ideas? I'm seeing some radio silence here. It's not looking good.
Bro,
You guys
I have no idea.
have any idea?
Mm-mm.
Do you give up, Bhuna?
Bro, I mean, I'll just go ahead and go with like Mariah Carey. Just for jokes.
What are you saying?
Oh
Bhuna?
yeah, true.
Pass.
Okay, it's pass to you, Kanji. You got a free shot at this. What are you going for?
I'll just go Mariah Carey, man.
Mariah Carey. It's not a bad shout. Usually is right, but I'm afraid the answer there would have been Wizard. So
nice.
Sung
All
that.
good.
The next one, and it is "Stay Another Day," was a Christmas #1 for which boy band? No ideas. Anyone buzzing in? You're not remembering the white coats? No. No. Okay. That would have been.
Inject it.
Okay, Bhuna.
It's the only one I can think of. Backstreet Boys.
I'm afraid you've hit the Christmas post. I'm afraid there. It's East 17 was your correct answer. So yeah, no success it seems on these Christmas songs, but hopefully this one you should guys get. Do They Know It's Christmas was a charity song to raise money for which African country? Any idea? You can even have a guess here. Any African country? Kanji, have you forgotten what you're
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, hello. I'll just give it a shot. Let's go with Tanzania. That's where I'm from.
Tanzania, I'm afraid, is incorrect.
Okay, cool.
A free shot,
South Africa.
South Africa, I'm afraid, is incorrect. The answer would have been Ethiopia. Okay, last question on Christmas songs. And this is, what is the worldwide best-selling...
Inject it.
Yeah, Bhuna?
Mariah Carey.
I'm afraid that is incorrect.
What is the question?
I hadn't actually finished the question. It's, what is the worldwide best-selling Christmas song of all time? Kanji, you've got a chance here. Boona's frozen out.
Bro, I don't even know the answer. That's wrong. Like, is it? I don't even know, bro. Is it like "We Wish You a Merry Christmas"? Like that? Actually, I don't know. Is it some Mariah Carey track? I don't know.
What's your final answer? Are you going for that?
The Mariah Carey one, yeah.
Okay, I'm afraid it's not. The answer is White Christmas. You guys need to really, scratch up on your Christmas song.
I really thought it was like "All I Want for Christmas Is You." I'm pretty sure that's hers, isn't it?
Yeah,
that is hers. But I'm afraid the answer for worldwide best-selling Christmas song of all time, White Christmas. So it remains 2-0. This is interesting now because we go into round 3 with it all to play for potentially.
Is this the final round?
This is the final round, and the final round here is Christmas films, but we've put a little bit of a football spin on it. So I'm going to name a random Christmas film, and what I want you to do, I'm going to name characters in that Christmas film. I want you to name Premier League footballers who share the same name. So, for instance, if it was, I don't know, It's a Wonderful Life, and I said George Bailey, then you could say Leon Bailey. That's an example. So that's one potential Christmas film that could come up. But the Christmas film I'm going to reveal to you that does come up is A Christmas Carol. So first name I could tell you. Feel free to pass on any of these. I'm just going to rattle through some of the characters. You've got to name a Premier League footballer. This is past or present. Peter Cratchit.
Inject it.
Bhuna.
Peter Crouch.
Peter Crouch. Well done. Yeah, very, very quick to the mark.
Smart.
That's a great shout. Did you have any up your sleeve, Kanji, that you were thinking of before Bhuna came in?
No.
Other Peters you could have said. We had Peter and Lavu, Peter Schmeichel, Peter Olingi. Quite a few options there, but well done. It's 3-0 to Bhuna. Okay, next character within A Christmas Carol then, and that is Bob Cratchit.
Inject it.
Yeah,
Oscar
Bhuna.
Bob.
Oscar Bob. Very well done. It's turning into a bit of a demolition job, I'm afraid, Candy.
Yeah, this is terrible.
This is all right. It's all right. It's all good. The next one, you can buzz in with this one. Give it a go. if you like, if you can get it. It's Tiny Tim.
Inject it.
Bhuna's straight there. Yep.
Tim Howard.
Tim Howard. Yes, that's very good. Well done. That is the last question. I'm afraid it's a clean sweep for Bhuna. I don't think we've had that all season, to be fair.
That was crazy. That was crazy.
Other Tims,
yeah,
there were a few other Tims. There was the likes of Tim Krul, Tim Cahill, Tim Ream. Quite a few options there, but I'm afraid, Bhuna's hates it.
Yeah, that was solid. Great performance from Bhuna. It's not my style. I don't know anything here.
It's all good.
Hey, that's the most enjoyable quiz I've ever done. That one.
Well, I'm glad I could give you that enjoyment factor, Bhuna. But it's funny. Obviously, people will be screaming, "Oh, why didn't you say Jacob Marley? You could have had Jacob Murphy. You could have had Jacob Greaves." But no, Jacob wasn't on the agenda this week, I'm afraid, from the Christmas Carol. But those are our festive questions. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Really have appreciated you coming on, Kanji, to help co-host. And of course, Bhuna, really, it's been great to get you on as our guest this week. So I hope you've enjoyed it.
Mate, time flew. I don't know where that time went, honestly. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. And of course, Kanji as well. Really appreciate you, stepping in quite late notice with the kind of co-hosting duties. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, of course. Like, apart from the quiz, it was like a great time with you guys. Like, would love to come on again.
Well, as always, next time, hopefully with the quiz, hopefully it will be better next time. No, as I said, really appreciate it. So if people don't already follow you, Kanji, where can people follow you on X?
Yeah, so on X and on YouTube, you can follow me on FPL Roundtable, which is the podcast I do with K-Man and Stark. We just started off this season, so we're fairly new. Would love some support. And I'm also on Twitter at Kanji FPL.
Absolutely, I watched your Match of the Day challenge earlier on in the season. It was so entertaining. So go give Kanji and FPL Roundtable a follow. There's some great guys there. And of course, Bhuna, where can people follow you? Although I do say that.
It's so funny when you ask Kanji, I was like, what's my at on Twitter?
Yeah, I was going to come to it. And I was like, well,
so
people want to follow you.
Moment,
it's a bit of a difficult one, isn't it?
That's it. At the moment on X, you can find me at ITK Goat, or you can find me as FPL Bhuna on Blue Sky. I can't promise either will stay the same, but that's what I'm currently.
Yeah, that's what you are before you've been blocked or banned.
Exactly.
So no. In all seriousness, Bhuna, what you provide for the community is a lovely light entertainment for the game. Ahead of a kind of quite monotonous game. It's great to see that kind of entertainment value still there, and people still fall for your incredible stunts. And like, though it does irritate some, there are a lot that value your contribution. So just keep being yourself, keep doing you, and really do enjoy it. So nice one, mate.
Appreciate it, mate. Nice one. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks again for listening this week. That's where we're going to end. But make sure you do get your team locked in for this festive period for 17 and 18. And we're really excited that the next episode we'll have previewing Game Week 19. We're going to be getting on the legend that is, of course, FPL Salah. So really happy to get Abdul on. We're looking forward to that one. But until next time, you've been listening. And thanks for listening. The Form is Temporary podcast. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.
Cheers, guys.